Sunbelt Coach of the Year should be pretty clear cut, but is it? Locked On Sunbelt is next.
You are Locked On Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Thanks very much for making it your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. All right, we got a few house cleaning things to get to before the topics at hand. Conference USA suing La Tech. We'll do an early Week 12 preview, and of course, we'll get to the Sunbelt Coach of the Year. Couple of things. All right, first of all, USF was ranked 24th in the latest college football rankings. Came out just before I started recording. They're the only G5. I think they are the biggest challenge for JMU to get in because they do have some nice wins. They do have 2 losses, but they do have some nice wins. Also, I haven't seen it in the video. That's a me problem. People are saying that Cajun's Tyrese Skipper, the safety who got suspended for the rest of the season, was swinging his helmet. That's unacceptable. Can't do that. All right. If you get punched, you can punch back. Can't swing your helmet back. All right. That's using a weapon. That's bad. If that's the case, he deserves to be gone for the rest of the season. Okay. Sunbelt Coach of the Year. All right. So I think it was Matt Zinitz. Is that CBS Sports? By the way, Zinitz is the human transfer portal. He used to have all those guys instantaneously, but it is what it is. Put out that Charles Huff was their coach of the week. Okay. And so I tweeted out, obvious Sunbelt Coach of the Year. But if they win the Sunbelt Championship game, he should get plenty of votes for National Coach of the Year. All right. So right now, who are we talking about? Kurt Cignetti and A&M's Mike Elko. Probably those. I'm sure there's some other people. But if you take an 1-11 team and you play for a Sunbelt Championship game, I think that locks it up. And if you win it, I don't care if I know what Cignetti is doing, but he did it last year at the same place. All right. Elko may be different. A&M has all the money in the world, never wins anything. So that's a different story. And the other coach that would be up for it for the Sunbelt Coach of the Year would be Bob Chesney. All right. And, people have a good argument, wins the Sunbelt Championship, wins the East, wins the Sunbelt Championship, gets to a playoff, which I don't think the playoff should count because it's not going to be fair if he doesn't, because it's not up to him. The other stuff is. But he could get some votes as well. All right. Obviously, he's done a great job. But Coach of the Year is usually based on expectations. So when you're expected to win, a la Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots, he won it 3 times. How is that feasible? Best coach in the NFL for 20 years. He won Coach of the Year 3 times. So Bob Chesney is going to do this great job, and no one's going to get me to say anything bad about Bob Chesney in this conversation because it's not. It's not that Bob has done a better or worse job than Charles Huff. It's just that Chesney and JMU were picked to win the Sunbelt East and compete for a Sunbelt Championship. Southern Miss was picked 5th. So they are exceeding expectations. I'm just going to say this. If he wins the East, if the West, rather, if Southern Miss wins the West, Charles Huff is your Coach of the Year. He may be Coach of the Year anyway. All right. He may be Coach of the Year anyway. But if he wins the West, even if, say, Troy beats him, he still may be Coach of the Year. Maybe closer, because you got a lot of guys who could absolutely get some consideration for Coach of the Year, from Tony Gibson. How about Tim Beck? I think as the season goes, and we'll see what happens the next 2 weeks, Mike Desimo. I mean, these guys aren't going to win Coach of the Year, but what Desimo has been through this year, and if they get to a bowl game, that's as good as coaching job as you'll find. All right, certainly in Cajuns history, and it only gets them to a 6-6 mark. That's impressive. All right, Tony Gibson, if they get to a bowl game, also impressive. All right, it's not more impressive than what Southern Miss is doing, and what JMU is doing. Is it more impressive than what Southern Miss has done? Although they have one loss and Southern Miss has two, as of right now. So again, I think Charles Huff will be the Coach of the Year, but that does not, in this case, does not take anything away from Bob Chesney. This isn't even an argument, is Southern Miss's defense good or lucky, because quarterbacks make bad throws and poor decisions. That's a discussion that has not ended since I brought it up. Was that the second game of the year, the App State game? I mean, these Southern Miss fans are like elephants. They have some serious memories, or just consumed and won't let it go. Either way, that's not what this is about. Both coaches are well deserving of the award. They could, you could. I mean, would anybody be surprised if the Sun Belt copped out and made it co-coach of the year if you have Chesney versus Huff? But again, if you go from 11-1 to 10-2, I'm sorry, if you go from 1-11 to 10-2, it's hard not to be Coach of the Year. And regardless if they win it, he'll get some National Coach of the Year honors. He absolutely will. And if he wins the Sun Belt Championship, goes to 11-2, he very well may be, Charles Huff very well may be Coach of the Year. Then the rumors are going to start flying. All right. I don't know if there's any rumors right now. We see John Summerall to Auburn. I thought the Arkansas deal was done with Memphis and Ryan Silverfield, but apparently not. We are, you're going to get some, jobs filled soon, right? Right. Napier went to Florida, before that Sun Belt Championship game, coached it, but then left. So we're only a few weeks, less than a month away. And one would think that schools may not wait to see, and I'm not sure it really matters if he wins it or not. If Huff goes into Harrisonburg and beats JMU, that's a serious victory. I'm not sure I would predict that. I hope to be there if that's the case, but I'm not sure I'm predicting that. But that, I don't know, do you get more money if that's the case? Does that open more doors? I would think that many of the jobs are going to be filled by the time that happens. And now you have, a couple of pro teams that have jobs. Does that get the domino falling? I mean, they're talking. I've heard Kiffin to the Giants or Keys into the Giants, who's taking the Titans job. Marcus Freeman, does he want to go pro? So who knows what full job openings they're going to be, come a couple weeks. So we'll have to wait and see how that works out. But as far as Coach of the Year is, I think it's going to be Charles Huff. That doesn't take away from what Bob Chesney has done. This is not the Sun Belt and the American, whereas who's got better wins or who's got better losses. This is JMU was picked to win it, and they are. Charles Huff and Southern Miss was picked to finish 5th. And going into the year, Sun Belt fans would have been thrilled, or Southern Miss fans would have been thrilled with 6 or 7 wins and go bowling. Now, they're worried about packing the stadium against Texas State because they want a big crowd there. With a chance to set themselves up to play in a Sun Belt championship game. How things have changed in just, over 2 months. All right, let's take a timeout. News came out on Tuesday. Conference USA suing La Tech. I guess we probably shouldn't be too surprised. Talk about that when we come back right after I tell you about Supply House. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your new crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Need parts for a fast project? Supply House has next-day delivery. Talk about a game changer. The Part Finder tools and 3D schematics can save you hours on jobs where every detail matters. Their Trade Master perks, like priority shipping and dedicated support, make the whole process smoother. Join the free Trade Master program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. We are actually sipping a little bit of the brown water. A friend of mine did me a favor, opened some up. Little Kings County cask strength. It's pretty good. This is Diet Green Tea. All right. So we hadn't really heard much about La Tech since they joined and all that happened. We did think it was going to be rather sooner rather than later that they would be that the announcement of the official joining would happen for 2026, because you got to get schedules ready. All right. These things get done pretty quickly and you need some time to do it. And unfortunately, that has not happened. So now we have a little bit of a lawsuit. Sportico reported Conference USA accuses La Tech of hiding the ball in public records suit. All right. So let's see here. I want to get to the main part of this. The Texas-based league filed a civil action on November 5th in Louisiana State Court, naming University of Louisiana System as the defendant. The action, which has not been previously reported, marks the first overt act of hostility since Louisiana Tech announced its plan in July to leave CSUSA, which it joined in 2013, to become the Sun Belt's 14th member. Okay. So basically what's going on here, let's see here. Adding another 10 pages to this tower of legal filings, CSU's complaint alleges that La Tech and its governing system deliberately withheld records that would undercut the school's claim to its latest multi-million-dollar annual distribution that it received from the conference June 27th. Less than 3 weeks later, on July 14th, the school formally notified the conference of its intention to depart the Sun Belt, effectively July 1st, 2026. CSUSA contends that this notice violated its bylaws, which requires member schools to give at least 14 months heads up before withdrawing. This is the problem. However, had Louisiana Tech adhered to this timeline, the conference says it would have forfeited its most recent bounty, since Conference USA's bylaws also prohibit withdrawing members from receiving distributions for 2 years following notice. Thus, CUSA accuses Louisiana Tech of trying to have its cake and eat its too. In an emailed statement, a Louisiana Tech spokesperson accused CSUSA of clinging to specious conspiracy theories of their own making. They say they handed out all of this publicly conversations, although Conference USA says no, there's a letter and a video that was not included. Okay, so we'll see how this all works out. Not looking great, Bob, for La Tech to get involved. So just to recap, if La Tech, according to Conference USA, if La Tech had told Conference USA when they were leaving, they wouldn't have gotten what I think was $5.2 million. Yeah, they got $5.2 million as a payout. And La Tech, according to Conference USA, was holding back when they were going to leave so they could get that check first. I don't know which is right, which is wrong. We shall see. But all of this is holding things up for Louisiana Tech to kick off in the Sun Belt in 2026. And that's going to make a difficult schedule. That's going to be an issue. I don't know how that's going to work out because you will have, you'll have to work around. There's always going to be somebody off. Although, I mean, let's be honest. After week 3, isn't there always somebody off until like the last 3 weeks or something like that? Something like that. From like weeks 4 through, week 9, always somebody's off. And then the last 3 weeks, nobody seems off. At least that's what I think. So we shall see where that goes. All right. So a little melodrama, as if the state of Louisiana doesn't have their hands full already with Big Brother. That job search is going swimmingly in Baton Rouge. I will say it is getting Matt Moscona a ton of views on Locked On LSU. Hashtag always a bright side. The bigger mess LSU is, the more people are watching Moscona. Holy cow. All right, let's take an early week 12 preview. We will do that next, right after I tell you about FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game and want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets from everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. Keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Locked On Pelicans, Jake Madison calling for the firing of Willie Green numerous times already this year. Can we bet on that? Nico Harrison was let go by the Mavericks. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. All right, early week 12, and it is week 12 preview. Did I do that right? It is week 12 preview. We got Troy and Old Dominion. Old Dominion, 10.5-point favorite. Troy is going to go back to Goose Crowder. Tucker Kilgrease did not play well last time out. Had played really well up until that point. For most of the season, Goose Crowder apparently is healthy. And so we're going to see both Tucker Kilgrease and Goose Crowder. All right. We'll see which ODU team shows up. Usually you get the good one in the first half, and then they make it close in the second half. All right. Talk about, and we can talk about this as well. Maybe it's just another topic. Playing a full 60 minutes. I'm not a big believer in that, just on a topic. Not when the other team is trying to stop you. So when you see teams say, we haven't played our best game yet because we haven't played a full 60 minutes. You probably have. You've probably played your best ball game. The other team's trying too. So when you outman the other team, when you're just better than them, I'm not sure that's your best game. I would think, if you're playing better 3/4 of the game, that's pretty good. This is not golf. It's not swimming. All right. The other team's trying to stop you. I'm not a big fan of the whole, we didn't put together 60 minutes. The other team's trying to do the same thing. All right, so that'll be interesting. That seems like a large point spread for ODU, 10.5 points. That ball game is on ESPN Thursday night, 7:30 Eastern time, 6:30 Central. You got Monroe and South Alabama. Monroe 3-6, 1-4 in the Sun Belt. South Alabama 2-7, 1-4 in the Sun Belt. I don't think Brian Vincent's going anywhere yet. If Major Applewhite comes up short against Monroe, is that it for Major Applewhite? That's an interesting situation there. Let's see here. South Alabama is favored by 4.5. Georgia State hosting Marshall. Marshall 9.5-point favorites on the road in Atlanta. Can Marshall pick themselves up after that tough loss against JMU? Had shots, right? Again, we all know it's a 2-score ball game. but they had a chance to tie it up, kick the field goal, stop JMU a couple of times, had a chance to take the lead, didn't, and then lose by 2 scores. So you got to pick yourself up and still have, enough ball games to get bowl eligible, right? Should have 3 ball games left. Yeah, they got 3 ball games left. Georgia State, App State, Georgia Southern. They're going to be favored in all 3 of those. All right. Marshall's got a shot to go 7-5. I think that's a pretty good year for Tony Gibson in his first year as being a head coach. All right. As we continue to look at week 12, James Madison hosting App State. JMU, 20.5-point favorites. That may have increased a little bit. It opened up at 19.5. JMU was 20.5-point favorites. I may take that one. If JMU's defense comes to play and they turn App State over a couple of times, and App State doesn't need the help to turn the ball over a couple of times, that could end up being a blowout. And App State has just gone in the opposite direction compared to like a Coastal Carolina, right? And I kind of feel like Coastal Carolina is the one who sent App State in the wrong direction. I mean, App State has lost. Have they lost 4 in a row? They've lost 3 in a row. This is most likely going to be 4 in a row. They do finish up with Marshall and Arkansas State at home. So are those winnable ball games, but not terribly easy ball games. And I just think JMU, under the microscope, if they have a chance to put some points up, they are. Southern Miss taking on Texas State. Texas State missing a couple of defensive players. And certainly due to that altercation with the Cajuns, Southern Miss, the kind of a letdown ball game. This is not going to be the trap game. No, because they get South Alabama. South Alabama is the trap game. This is not, because then they'll get Troy. So this is the letdown game. All right. You were geeked up to play on the road against Arkansas State. 4-6 turnovers, hang on for the 6-point victory and take control of the West. Now you can't let that slip up with a loss against Texas State, who I guess people still think they're mailing it in. I don't know where we see that. The players don't care that they're going to the Pac-12 next month. And I didn't really see, they did have some bad penalties, costly penalties, offensive pass interference that, took away a touchdown. And Texas State thinks there's some sort of conspiracy theory against them in the Sun Belt this year, as if Sun Belt officials aren't awful to begin with. But they did have some costly penalties that either took points away from them, stopped their drives, or helped the Cajuns. Like Alexander had a bad face mask, which you knew, And here's the problem with that thing. It's a disappointing and frustrating penalty. But when you're just swiping for the guy's jersey and you grab the face mask, that's one of those, like, you got to focus and not jump off sides type of deal. That's an effort penalty, right? Disappointing. Can't do it. Knew he did it, but I don't think coaches get that upset when something like that happens, because he's moving to his left and Lunch is moving to his right, and he just puts his arm out and he ends up getting the face mask instead of the jersey. Nonetheless, Southern Miss should win that football game. Surprisingly, they're only 5.5-point favorites. Again, outside of the big loss to JMU, and they've lost 5 in a row now, right? So we're going to take out the JMU game, right? Because that was a 32-point loss. Their other 4 losses are by like 1, 8, 11, 14. They have 4 losses by a combined 14 points. Not taking the 5th game, which would put that way over. Are they mailing it in? I mean, their defense isn't very good. Their offense is quick strike. All right. Lincoln Perry is good. Brad Jackson is good. Sparks is good. And they got some good players. They don't look like they're mailing it into me. If they mailed it in, it would have been, 55-24. Instead, the Cajuns needed to convert a fourth down. So I don't think Texas State is mailing it in at all. And I think Southern Miss needs to be leery of that. All right. I don't think they're mailing it in at all. Have had some bad losses, close losses, tough losses. But I don't think they're mailing it in as some people think they are. I mean, a third of these players aren't going to be there next year. They could care less about going to the Pac-12 and maybe even more. Transfer out. I mean, talk about a fall from grace. A month ago, G.J. Kinney was going to Oklahoma State. Now Texas State fans want him fired. I don't think he's going to be fired. I don't think he should be fired. He is making a lot of money, and they're not having a particularly good season. All right. I think we got one more ball game. You do have Georgia Southern and Coastal Carolina. This is a big ball game. Surprised Georgia Southern is favored by 2.5. Coastal Carolina has won 4 in a row and 5 out of 6. Georgia Southern has won 2 in a row, I believe. Oh, no, they have not. They have won 2 out of 3 and actually have lost 3 out of 5, right? They did beat Georgia State. They lost to James Madison, lost to Southern Miss. They were way behind in that ball game and made it close. They beat Georgia State, were up against Arkansas State, lost that one, and then hung on for dear life against App State. Surprised Coastal is not favored in this ball game, even if just a little bit. And this is a big ball game for Georgia Southern because they could still obviously get bowl eligible. They have 4 wins. They got Coastal, Old Dominion, and Marshall. All 3 of those games are winnable. Are they going to win all 3 ball games? I doubt it. They got to win 2 out of those 3. And then Coastal Carolina just has a shot to have a magical season. All right, kind of under the radar, talking about JMU, Marshall, Troy, Southern Miss, how poor Georgia Southern has been, how poor the Cajuns have been. And all of a sudden, again, Coastal beats Georgia Southern. They got 7 wins. Then they're taking on South Carolina. Then they're taking on JMU. I mean, we could be setting ourselves up for one heck of a finish and one heck of a season for Coastal Carolina. And again, you may have a battle there if for some reason JMU loses to Coastal Carolina. And you have Coastal Carolina taking on Southern Miss and Charles Huff. We didn't go over that possibility. If Coastal Carolina is 9-3 against a 10-2 Charles Huff Southern Miss squad, you very well may get co-coaches of the year. Because I'm thinking Coastal Carolina, I think, was picked 7th. Or I'm sorry, 6th. In the Sun Belt East. Let me see. They were picked way down. No, they were picked 4th. All right, they were picked 4th. Okay. So Southern Miss was picked 5th in the West. All right. But that would be interesting. Who gets coach of the year? Do you give it to the winner of the game? Because I think it is a regular season award. But you could have Coastal Carolina taking on Southern Miss. That would put coach of the year up for debate a little bit more than if it's Bob Chesney and JMU. All right. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. Again, news of the day. A couple of newses of the day. Conference USA suing La Tech, trying to get more information on when they wanted to leave and when they did leave. Conference USA, when they were informed of that. Also, USF is 24th ranked in the college football playoffs. That came out Tuesday night. And Tyrese Skipper Allegedly, again, I haven't seen it. That doesn't mean it didn't happen. I'm looking at it. And Cajuns uniforms were not great to see the numbers the other night. But if he's swinging a helmet, then that's how you get two games or suspended for the rest of the year. All right. If you get punched and you punch back, okay, I can be down with that. But if you get punched and you're swinging your helmet around so you could permanently hurt somebody, that's unacceptable. So if that's the case, that's the reason why. It just would have been nice if Keith Gill said the reasons why. That's all we were asking for. Not saying it didn't happen, but obviously they knew something that that I did not. All right. So there's that. We'll talk more basketball. You got the Cajuns and Tulane about to tip off. I'm going to watch a little bit of that, and maybe we'll do a Wednesday morning preview or Wednesday morning recap of some college basketball. That's not the worst of all ideas. All right. Again, have a good evening, everybody. We'll be back with you again on Wednesday. You've been watching and listening Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network out there. Thanks for everything. Have a great day.